Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Outdoor Line Podcast. Today I've got Max Grogan with me again, and we're going to give a recap of our recent trip we just did to Colorado, where we were out in the plains uh, doing a spot-and-stalk archery hunt on big mule deer. I think we've kind of talked about it, but this was our sixth year out there. Um, we've been going since we were in college, I guess, and we've had some good luck and we've had some bad luck. So we didn't know what to expect this year. We obviously were excited. We really don't care. We have a good time while we're out there anyway. But we didn't know what to expect. And as we've talked about on one of the other episodes, the first day we spotted this giant buck, and we knew that this is kind of what we wanted to go after, right? Like that was the one. That's the deer that we're going to have to stick on this whole hunt and try to get him down. So, Max, you want to talk about kind of spotting him first off?
Yeah, day one, went to an area, so I summer scouted quite a bit. I was antelope hunting out there, and so day one, I kind of knew I hadn't seen any bucks this summer, but I kind of knew what they like, from previous years. The good mix of cover, food, water. So I kind of knew an area I wanted to check, and I think I sent you up north because we actually did see a buck up there over the summer, but down south where I was, we hadn't, and so I sent you up north. I went south and I went up in this Milo field like an hour after daylight and spotted this group of bucks. Didn't know what they were until the one skylined himself, and I called you right away and said, "This is the one. We got to find this one and stalk him."
Yeah.
And I think I recognized him pretty quick. I had pictures from him last year, late season,
Yeah, I
which
don't think
you,
I don't think I realized at the time that you knew the deer from the year before. Um, Once you
I think
said
it,
that, I kind of remembered then. But
yeah, yeah, because you'd seen him too. We'd
mhm,
both seen him last year, but
yep, in the same area too.
same area. Yeah, doing
So
the
you
same stuff.
so you spotted him first thing on the first morning in a Milo field feeding, right? It was him and four other little bucks. A similar
Yep.
situation than last year. He was in a Milo field in the field like that borders that one
Yep.
last year with a group of bucks, and he never left that field last year for all we know. Um, but anyway, yeah, you spotted him, and those deer got nervous right off the bat. I started heading that way as soon as you called me.
Yep. We lost them. I kind of, while you were coming, I decided to go down south so I could see where they go. And we talk about this in our, end of day hunt recap, but I ended up bumping the group in front of me. They saw my truck and took off into some really thick corn. And that's kind of where day one, midday left us is, yeah, they were pretty spooked, but we don't think they left this field. So, you know, that's when we went in there that afternoon and did our classic check each corn row, which
Yeah,
sucks.
yeah, it's miserable. It was hot that day too. Like that might have been the hottest
Yep.
day we had. Like low 80s, I think. Sun just beating down. My neck got sunburnt real bad
Yep.
that day.
I had a
Uh,
hole in my shirt that I ripped elk hunting. I had a sweet sunburn, right? For a big circle sunburn.
yeah.
But
But yeah, we spent really the whole day in there trying to find him. We turned up the four bucks that were with him, and we're within range of a few of those. Like could have killed those if we wanted to,
yep.
but never turned him up. In hindsight, I think he was there. I just think we didn't see. He might have been bedded, 50 yards north of them other deer, 5 or 10 corn rows away, and we just never stumbled on him. I'm not saying that we didn't look hard enough or what, but I think he was there. So anyway, day one ends, no luck. We're kind of scratching our heads, like where could he possibly have went? The next day two, day three, day four are spent actively searching for him.
Well,
So,
yeah, I was definitely glued to that spot. We
yeah,
were dividing and conquering every day. You were kind of staying up north trying to find other bucks, and I was really just picking apart like these three fields where we'd seen him day one.
yeah, and yeah, because there's a chance that we could have found another big shooter buck somewhere else, right? Since we saw him
Yep.
on day one, we really didn't cover that much ground, so I kind of spent those next 3 days covering everything else, and I couldn't turn anything up. It'd have been nice if we could have turned up anything to go after, but we couldn't. So Max kept focusing on that area. On day 5, or on day 4, we're sitting at camp like we're beat, right? We've spent 3 more days looking for this deer. We're not seeing anything. We're not seeing any other bucks. And that's kind of when I really got to thinking about it, just like putting a little more thought in it. Like, where could that deer be? What are we missing? Um, and that's when I kind of asked you about that Milo field that we saw him in the first day. I said, are you covering all of that? Like, is there a piece you can't see? And you're like, yeah, there's a little bit I can't see. But you didn't think it was that much of it, right?
No, it's like one small draw
Yeah. Like,
that you have to hike in to see.
right. You can't walk 50 yards from the truck and see it. You got to really walk in there, which you would think that they'd be in the majority of the field, not this little portion that you can't see. Uh, but I mentioned, like, maybe we need to look there. Maybe we're not looking hard enough. Uh, One problem was like the corn that they could be in. We just can't glass it. Like, it's so full of weeds, you just couldn't see into the corn. So we had to
Yeah.
either catch them in the Milo or out in the open first thing in the morning, right? So talk about day 5 that morning.
Yeah. So, and I want to throw on something else, just the weather change. So day 1 through 4 was what, in the 80s, pushing
Mm-hmm.
90 a couple
Yep.
days. Super, hot, south wind, just nothing. Everything was just stagnant. Like we weren't seeing much deer anyways. Day 5, I think that night we got a north wind switch and there was some cooler weather coming. So I think day 5 was what, high of 70,
So yeah,
high
like
60s.
75 maybe. Yeah, I don't remember, but it was like so nice. It was so relieving
Yeah,
to have not heat beating down on you all day. But
super nice. And I think we both know from the past that usually shuffles the deck with deer movement in the
yep,
area.
it
Like
absolutely
if you're
can.
not seeing a lot, you get that little bit of weather shift, it seems like they just appear
Right, like
and
deer could
kind
just
of,
come from, I assume, miles away. Who knows?
yeah,
But if the weather stays the same, we don't expect a lot of change. But when there's any kind of change, I mean, it could go from cold to hot, and we could maybe expect a change too. But just you're right, it kind of shuffles the deck, shifts some deer around in the night, and gives you a little excitement for the next morning. Like, hey, things could have changed overnight. Like, let's go find a buck. Let's cover everything. Let's find another buck.
that's
So
exactly, yep. And
yeah.
that's what I was thinking day 5. I'm thinking we're going to see him again. It just feels good. So I went,
Hey, I want to throw in too. I want to
yeah,
throw in too. Last year, we had a similar situation. We had a giant deer. We were on him the first 2 days, and he disappeared. And same thing last year. We kind of got down, and morale was pretty low because we couldn't turn this deer up. But then, sure enough, he turns up towards the end of the hunt, right where we saw him to begin with. So in the back of my mind, I was thinking that like there's still a chance he could come right back to that same spot, and we could find him again. We just got to keep after it and keep our heads up.
I think I even on what was it, day 3, day 4, I was like, Luke, I don't know, we're wasting our time here. I think
Yeah,
we might want to go home and come back late season.
yeah. Same conversation we had last year. And
Yeah.
at some point, it's like we quit talking about that. I don't. I feel like by the end of day 4, we had decided we were sticking it out, but we really didn't say it. Like we just knew, like
Yeah.
we're gonna find him. We're staying. We're gonna do it. But anyway, go ahead.
Yep. But yeah. So day 5, I went back to the same spot. Did my usual glass the wide open stuff. Glass what I can of the corn, even though it sucks. Like can't hardly see any of it. But I don't know. It was like 9 a.m. I glassed the Milo. We saw him day 1. He wasn't there, and kind of running out of ideas. And then I remember what you said. Like, did you glass all of that Milo? I'm like, all right, I'll go walk out to that one draw. I'm gonna walk half a mile to get there, and just
Right.
so I can go back and tell Luke
Take
that,
yeah, it takes 30 minutes to do that. I mean,
yeah, like I have nothing else to do. So I walked out there. As soon as I get there, I pop over this ridge, and ridge. It's hardly a ridge. just
Right.
folds in the landscape. Everything's so flat. But hop over this ridge and I'm glassing, just kind of scanning this draw, and I just see a white face, and I'm like, oh, that's a buck. So I sit there, kind of try and get a closer look, and I think I called you at that point and said, hey, I got one of the bucks he was with. And then boom, there's two. So two of the small bucks he was with, three, four. And so I've got all four he was with, the four we got close to on day one in the corn.
Yep.
Clearly the same bucks. Like, the biggest one was a 3x4 with some cool little extra points that he's
Right.
only a 3-year-old maybe. He's gonna
Yep.
be good. Just not a shooter. Like, man, he's not here. Like, and I've been watching him for 20, 30 minutes and no big buck. Um, I think we talked about this, but we dubbed him Ghost, and it was feeling like he was a ghost right now. I'm like,
Right.
am I just not seeing him? Am I missing him, or is he really just not hearing? I think you told me like, dude, he must have split from him. Like, he must be too smart.
Right.
So I'm on the phone with you. I think I might have let you go for a little bit. Got back on the phone, and I'm like scanning again.
Well, and you said like you'd seen the $5 or the $4, and you'd said I'm going to give it another 30 minutes.
Yep.
And I was thinking the same thing. Like this is the best intel we have so far on this deer. Like his four running buddies are here. There's no reason to just hurry up and get out of there and go look somewhere else. Like stay put, stay right there, and just make sure that he doesn't stand up. Because and then yeah, go ahead. So you
Yep.
stayed put a while. You planned on staying just a little while to watch them longer than we normally would. I would say.
Yeah, and I didn't want to. I'm like what you said. I think he split from him. That's what I was thinking. I'm like, he's
Right.
not here. We would have seen him by now. They've been feeding for 30 minutes. Sure as shit. I'm glassing, scanning, and I see another deer. And I thought it was like a fork horn at first, because that dark Milo and the dark horn, you just can't see a lot. But I knew it was a different deer because it was way to the right of this group of bucks. Like, he just stood up out of nowhere, like 100 yards away from him. I'm like, Luke, there's another buck here. Let me let you go. Let you go, get a closer look, and sure enough, it's him. He starts moving up. I can tell it's the one. It's Ghost. So I start to get excited. I know it's not over. Still going to be a super long day. We're going to have to stalk him. We're going to have to get close. And I'm super worried because you can literally hear gunshots in the background from antelope hunters, a mile away.
Right. Because
And
this was day 2 of antelope rifle season, I think.
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
So a gunshot goes off and all the bucks just, whip their head, like all nervous. And I'm like, this is going to be, and we'll tell this story one day, but this is going to be like your deer last year, how that almost got screwed up
Yep.
by antelope hunters. And like, man, so I'm kind of stressed about it. Like, if antelope season wasn't on, I'd be feeling a lot better at this point. But I called you to come down, and
Yep. And I like to add that as you were calling me, I'm watching a nice buck walk 250 yards in front of my truck, unbothered. And I think by that time I'd watched him bed. He'd made it to this draw, and I kind of drove around and I found him again and watched him bed. This is a buck that I'd seen on the first day that I left to come like go on the stalk with you for this ghost buck. So twice in a row now, like we both found bucks on the same morning. So like we had to choose one or the other, right? So, um, but yeah, I just wanted to
yeah,
add that. Like it's just funny,
I
like
felt bad.
ironic how
I'm
that
like,
works. But no,
I felt bad. You were coming down to help. I'm like, you're on a buck too, and we only get so many stalks. So
yeah,
thank
but
you
like
for,
the deer I was after was a 140. Like it's not a big deal.
yeah. So, and it wasn't, we still had 3 days left. So,
Right, right.
yeah, we hiked in there. I kind of showed you where I glassed them up the first time. They were bedded by then because I came back to get you. So I had a good idea of where they were. We use a lot of stuff on the horizon. Like, we'll find you know, a barn or something and say,
Right.
okay, he's 3 telephone poles over from this building.
Yep.
And that's like our best because
And
you
we'll,
can
and we'll
do,
like draw like lines on Onyx.
yep,
If you can get like two angles, you could draw a couple like multiple mile long lines and find where they intersect. And
like
that's
triangulate.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's been real useful. It's weird to think about, but it's worked really good for us.
This is probably hard for people to imagine too. Like, what do you mean you can't find him? It's probably just right next to a rock or a tree or something.
Right.
There's nothing to reference out there.
Yeah. And what I mean, that Milo field's probably 1,000 acres, maybe. I'm not sure
Yeah,
how big that specific field was, but hundreds
yeah,
of acres, one continuous field. And
all looks the same.
when you're standing back from where you're glassing to when you're 500 yards closer, everything looks different.
Yep.
You can't tell where you're at, what you're looking at. Like even directionally, I'm really good with directions. Like I'll get turned around like out in the middle
Yeah.
of those fields because you just like don't. There's nothing to reference. It's just all like
Mm,
it's like being out in the middle of the ocean, just like a sea of all the same things.
yep, exactly. So we didn't know exactly where he was, but I had a decent bead on him. I think I had drawn a line with a decent, you know, idea. But we got down, got the wind right. So it was a north wind, pretty heavy wind that day. I think gusts in the 20, 25 mile per hour, but just a constant like 15, which was great for
Yeah, it was
stalking
fun. Yeah, it was good.
because you're walking through that Milo. So we got south of them. We started walking in that Milo, and when you're in that Milo, like on a calm day, it's like walking through, potato chip bags. Like it's so loud. But when the wind's really good moving and everything's, shaking and the leaves and stuff, your scent kind of just dissipates and you get away with a lot more. So that was good. But yeah, we walked in there a little bit and I think at some point you grabbed me to stop me or one or the other because one of us had seen a buck. And so we both got down low. You don't
I
have to
like
get very low in
I
that
very
stuff.
aggressively grabbed you because I was amped up. Like we're
Yeah.
stalking in. We're within probably 200 yards of where we think this deer is, and I saw Brown and I grabbed your arm, like jerked you down.
I remember saying I'm like, you're more excited than me, and I'm
Yeah,
gonna be the shooter.
I was wound up.
But yeah, so you stopped me, we got down, and it was one of the small bucks, just the fork horn, I think. And so we're like, okay, we have a really good idea where he is now. And how far was he when we saw that one?
160 or something like that, under
Okay,
200, I think.
so pretty close,
Yeah, we're getting in there.
like rifle hunting, even like muzzleloader, we would be set up,
Already
ready.
nearly within range. Yep.
Yeah, but that's not bow hunting, right?
All right.
Our hunt just started. We saw him at 160 yards, and so I'm like, all right, um, we know these bucks like to bed within pretty close distance of each other, so the big one has to be pretty close to that one. So we let him bed that back down, and then I started stalking in, and forget how far I got before they all stood up. I think I got maybe 100 yards, 80 yards from them, and they all just got up and started moving. Like no feeding, no messing around. They just started moving north, straight into the wind.
Yep.
So, I got real low again, looked back at you. I don't know. They must have, they must be rebedding. Like we're just a little too late. So they go up and they start to get above us. Like there's a slight rise in this draw. I think we watched them kind of go on this ridge and they screwed around for what, 30 minutes?
Seemed like it took
Just
forever. Yeah.
like it seemed like one would get, you know, calm down and start to kind of act like he's going to bed. And then another one would come up and like poke him in the ass and they'd start going again.
Yep.
So that went on for 30. It was kind of frustrating because you just want them to bed so you can get close. But when
Sure.
they're
And
all up,
like
you're
and we know from like the time you watched them bed the first time to the time we got in there, it'd probably been an hour. Like
yeah,
had we been right there ready, we could have been in range and it could have been over with by then, But just by the time it takes to get around, get to the right spot, walk all the way in there, get your gear ready, all that stuff, like they'd already made it back on their feet. So
yep. So is what it is. We watched them go up, kind of trailed them a little bit when they weren't looking, or when they were moving straight away from us. And then we eventually saw them settle down again, and they bedded. And I had a really good location on the big one. Like I saw exactly where he was. I saw where the little ones were next to him. Like, all
and
right, there's
so
this tall, yeah,
what we did, we picked like a landmark on the horizon that's 20 miles away and start walking, like line him up with that, right? And then you walk straight at that. Like, I'm in line. He's in line with that thing. You just head straight for him. And I stayed
Yep.
back at I was like 130 yards or something from that area. Um, got set up to try to video, and you took off.
Yeah. So I got up there and I actually saw where he bedded. I was a little worried because it was pretty thick. The stuff right there was, I don't know, 4 feet tall. Like that's taller than a mule deer. So it's going to be really
Right.
hard to shoot. But I did see a piece of like tall Milo sticking up that I had a really good range on. So I was constantly ranging it. So I got to, 80 yards, started to really slow down, got 70. And so I started crawling at one point, I think. I got to 60 and I was ranging that piece of Milo and I saw a little buck get up and then the big one got up and then they all got up and started moving quick again. Just obviously no shot. I wasn't ready or anything. It was just a little too far too, but
And I
started
felt
moving again.
stupid. I felt stupid because I had no idea they were up. Like just
Oh
I was
yeah.
staying I was staying low enough, and I was like trying to show you like you need to go further. Like you're not close enough because I was ranging you, so I knew how far away you were, and I didn't realize that they'd got up at that point until you kind of like relaxed and were more like standing up. I'm like, oh wait,
Oh
something changed here.
yeah. Yeah. I was
I
confused
just couldn't see him as good as I thought I'd be able to from where I was at. I was just a
yeah.
little lower.
Because I looked back at you, I think, and you're like, he's right there. And I'm just like,
No,
no, they're walking away.
yeah,
So yeah, and then what did they kind of moved east, I think, at that point. So they were going
hmm
north and then they just kind of like cut.
and we
And
lost
so
sight
we're
of them
like,
too
yep, lost
over
sight
that
of
hill.
them. So we go up on that hill a little bit and scan. You have to be real careful with skylining yourself. So we were real careful with that, but got up to the top, scanned, and I'm seeing antlers, like antler tips moving. And so we see them kind of go east and start going kind of, to our right. And at that point, they dropped into another draw, not the first one, but the next one, closer to the trucks actually. And I'm like, all right, they've got to bed again. Like, or otherwise they're going to leave this field. They're getting close to the end of it. Sure enough, they laid down again. And this time, when the big one bedded, I could see his frame just sticking up. He was in a spot that the Milo just wasn't quite as tall, and you could actually see his horns. So I'm like, that's perfect. I know exactly where he is. So
And
yeah.
I remember thinking at this point like we've got to be aggressive. These deer have not bedded for long at all
Hmm.
today. So like it felt to me like he may only be there for 20 minutes, so we got to go. Like I remember telling you like you're gonna have to just go a little faster than normal because we don't want to get to 100 yards and he get up and they move again. You know.
Yep. So I was
But
aggressive. I got down there quick.
yeah, you did. I was like, and I moved up a little bit so I could video. Um, and I was watching you going, and I remember you saying you could see an antler before you took off. And I remember I had my phone looking through my binos, and I was watching you. I could see you. I'm like, yeah, I don't see no antlers. And all of a sudden, like, it just appeared to me. You can see his whole rack sticking out of the Milo. I'm like, how did I not see that?
They kind of blend in. He kind of
Oh
had a
yeah,
real dark
it's yeah.
red rack,
But it was so cool just seeing your head in the left side of the frame and this big rack facing you in the right side of the frame. From my angle, it
Yeah,
looked like he was looking right at you the whole time.
right. So yeah, I got right in there. You know, I could range him. So every once in a while I pop up, hit his antlers, and I got to 40 yards exactly. Little closer than I usually like. So there's
Yeah.
a sweet spot, right? You don't want to be on top of him because the wind can swirl, they can hear stuff. They just, sense things. And you get more nervous too when you're that close.
hmm
But too far, it's going to be a harder shot and stuff. So I really like that like 50-yard sweet spot. I
Yeah.
got to 40. I was a little nervous. The wind wasn't perfect. It was kind
Had
of
a
coming
little bit of
across me.
had a little bit
Yeah.
of a crosswind, and from my view, it looked even worse. You know, like it's hard to tell how close you were, but
Yeah.
um, for me, like
Because
wind's
I,
blowing left to right, and you were on the left side of him from my view.
yep. And I
So
didn't know exactly where the other bucks were. I was hoping they were past him to the right, but I was like, crap, like, is my wind good enough here? It's kind of too late at that point. So I just kind of held my ground. But yeah, stayed there. You know, I was folding down leaves. I was getting my kind of dirt spot dug out for my knees and my feet and stuff. So everything was quiet. And you have a lot of time to prepare in these moments most of the time when you're waiting on a deer to stand. And so, you know, you're getting your shooting lane. Like I picked a really clear kind of spot to where his body would be when he would stand up and all the
You
stuff.
also,
And
something else I noticed, you stopped at some really tall Milo. There was like three pieces, like in front of you or right next to you or something. And like when you'd raise your bow up, your bow was like in line with that Milo, wasn't it? Like just to kind of blend in
um,
with that.
I think I did pick, and more so behind me. I wanted kind of a
Okay.
backdrop.
Backdrop. Yeah.
But you're right. I picked kind of a tall area that I would blend in better.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I could see that from back where I was.
nice. Yeah, but yeah, and this is where it can kind of suck because you're sitting there and you'll see his antlers move and you get adrenaline rush. You're like, here we go,
Yeah.
here we go, and then he just puts his head down and you know he's just sleeping and you just got to wait him out. But I think an hour and a half went by roughly. Um,
Yeah.
and
I don't know how long it was to the first time he stood up. It was a while, at least an hour.
yeah, at least an hour. And I saw him bob his head, which usually means they're getting up. And so I saw him bob his head and then just slowly rise up. And he stood up and his eyes were halfway closed. Like he's still super out of it, just, midday nap. But, so I draw, I'm real low and I draw and I slowly raise up on my knees and all I see is just rump. I see his ass. And I'm like, that's not going to work. There's a little bit of shoulder, but I'm like, it's almost fully facing away from me. I'm not going to shoot. So I let down, get low. And this is like, I've been thinking about this a lot recently, you know, how things played out and how, you know, hindsight's 2020. But they always circle before they bed again.
Kind
Like
of like
you're
a dog.
always,
Kind of
yeah.
like a dog. When a dog spins a couple times to prepare their bed or wherever they're going to lay down, like seems like a deer will do it once.
So I was being real conservative and I knew he's going to circle, but usually they don't stop when they circle. But so he's facing away from me for, I don't know, 2 minutes standing. And finally he turns his head away from me and kind of does that thing and starts to turn and do a circle and he stops broadside. And I'm like, shit. And I think at that point there's a still frame of him just like looking straight at me. He doesn't see me, but that's just the way his head's pointing. And if
Yeah.
I draw at this point, it's over. Like he's going to
Right.
see me. So I'm locked down. I'm like, crap. Maybe I should have been on my feet, drawn, and waiting for him to do that. And then it would have been, I mean, broadside perfect. But
Right.
I wasn't drawn, I wasn't ready, and he laid back down.
Yeah. And so that's something we've learned too. Uh, One is to have some patience when you're in that situation. I think a lot of people like that deer stands up, they're shooting, like they're drawing their bow and shooting. They're getting a shot off, like
Texas
that.
hard shot.
Yeah, whatever it takes. They're
Yep.
and another thing, and I would shout out to the hunting public. I remember an episode where Zach Farrenball talked about if a deer's looking at you, don't try to draw. Like a deer may be standing broadside at 20 yards and they look at you and you want to be shooting. So he said 100% of the time they're going to spook when they watch you draw. Most likely, maybe not 100%. But your best bet is to just not draw and let them calm back down. So like
Yep.
we've learned that over the years too. Just sure he was broadside at 40 yards. It was perfect opportunity to shoot, but you can't draw with them looking in your direction because it's going to ruin the whole thing.
Yep.
So thank goodness you had some patience there, and that's just knowledge we've gained over the years of doing this. Is, patience
Well, and
kills
I
these big
knew,
deer.
and it's so hard to tell from a spotter's view, but I knew you were probably just screaming at me like,
Oh, I was.
what are you doing?
You
Shoot,
should hear
like
the
he's
audio.
broadside.
I was like cheering you on, like felt like I was at a basketball game. Like, come on, Max, come on.
And I knew that. I'm like, Luke's yelling at me right now as he's laying back down. But
And
yeah,
I had an insane adrenaline rush myself. And when that deer bedded back down, like it was just like, oh my god. I just went through so
Yeah.
much.
I'm worse when I'm watching you than when I'm the shooter.
Right,
I get more nervous because I think you're not in control, so you just don't know what's happening.
right.
But yeah, so you bed back down and crap, man, it was what, 2.5 hours of just, and when
Probably,
you're on your
probably,
knees
yeah,
that long, everything hurts. Like your knees start to ache, your shins
right,
hurt, like your feet ache. So you're just constantly, and I'm getting less and less patient. Like I'm moving a lot, trying to get comfortable, and I can't be sitting down because then I can't see. So I have to kind of be up and
right.
yeah,
Same,
2.5 hours.
same with
Yep.
me as the spotter. Like, I'm not a flexible person. I don't sit on my knees well, and I was uncomfortable for hours just waiting. And same, I couldn't sit on my butt because I couldn't see anything. So I was afraid if I sat on my butt, the second I did that, he'd stand up, and I'd miss it. Uh, I'm going back through my phone right now to look to see how long we were
Yeah, get a
on
good number on that.
that deer because it was a while. It was longer than I was thinking. So 2:36 was about the time we got situated. I think. Now maybe 2:45. Yeah, 2:41 is the first video I have of the buck and you in position. Um, first time he 2:45. First time he stood up. Nope, that's the little buck standing up. Was 3:38. So about an hour
Okay.
to the first time. The second time he stood up was 5:10. So another hour and a half.
Gotcha. So
So an
two and a
hour
half
the first
total.
time, two and a half total. Yep.
Yep.
But we probably had 2 hours in this ordeal from the time we left the truck to get to this point,
Oh
even
yeah. Hmm.
from them moving twice and us getting in there. I mean, it's been a long day already. But anyway, yeah.
Well,
So we waited another hour and a half.
yeah, and at this point, I'd drawn 2 or 3 times. I don't know if you'd seen that, but I was practice drawing on my knees and, you know, being careful without them seeing me, but drawing, and I was a little nervous with the wind. It was a little heavy, but doable. Like, I practiced in wind like that. It was fine. So I had a lot of time to think it through and be like, all right, well, what if the Bucks get up and move this way? Like, I'm gonna have to range him and shoot this way. What if he gets up and smells me and spooks 30 yards? Like, going through all those scenarios in your head. What ended up happening though is one of the small bucks got up and I heard a vehicle. I don't know if you heard. I heard a vehicle running. They must have come close to our trucks over there. But that's kind of when all four of the bucks stood up, the small ones. And like all of a sudden I look over and there's all four of them just up and they're just looking around like real alert. Like shit. Like they might hear something or not like something or smell me.
Right.
So they start moving north again. And they're kind of like single filing moving. They're not messing around, giving me shot opportunities. It's just like they're going. And of course that woke the big one up. He pops up, looks around, and I'm like, here we go.
And they walked like right by him too.
Yeah.
Just
Yep.
reviewing the video that like those deer had come north a little bit and walked right next to him, and he finally stood up, kind of in amongst them all.
Yeah, he's probably like, all right, what are we doing? Like, I'm following you guys. But he got up, facing towards me, no shot. And then he just turns and basically walks straight away from me. I don't know, 5 yards. And so I get on my knees and he turns. So I see broadside for a little bit, but it's thick. Like it kind of got taller right there. So I had no shot. So I ranged him again, 48. All right, dial my sight real quick. And this is happening super fast, like you can see in the video. But I'm ranging, dialing, and I'm trying to find a shooting lane because I don't want to stand all the way up with 5 bucks looking around. Like one of
Right.
them's gonna not like that. And I'm like, all right, I think my only play is he's gonna have to walk into my row that I'm in. That's a little more clear than left or right. Like he's gonna have to walk through my row, and I'm gonna have to stop him in the row. So that's what he starts doing. He starts angling away from me and walking, and I see him coming to the row, and I'd been drawn already, and I just let out, real loud, and he swung his head east, like away
Yeah,
from me. Like he heard
yeah.
something, but he didn't look straight at me. So his
Which was good. Like we typically don't stop them. I we usually
I
shoot them where they're standing, but in that
yeah,
instance, you kind of needed to get them to stop. But
I felt like I was elk hunting or something,
right,
stopping a bull in a shooting lane.
right,
But he was already quartering away, and then when I made that noise, he swung his head kind of southeast, and that kind of turned his body away from me. So, video shows it, but I've kind of got a worse angle on him, but I can see he's quartering away, but it's not so bad that I'm not going to shoot. He's quartering away pretty good, but I can see, body, and I can see that offside leg. But I knew it was pretty steep, so I literally like I'm focusing in. I check my bubble and stuff, and I'm coming down on him, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to put it right on the crease of his leg. Like I was aiming at the crease of his back leg to where that arrow is gonna go through up into the vitals.
right. Kind of aiming for
And
the opposite side front shoulder, basically.
yeah, yeah,
Pretty
exactly.
pretty much.
So not an ideal angle. It'd be better if it was perfectly broadside, but you kind of just have to make things happen in some of these situations. And so that's the shot I took. I shot, felt good. If anything, it hit a couple inches right. Like, you know, it's bow hunting, a ton of variables. We do the best we can, but I saw it go kind of straight into his back leg, um, a couple inches right of that crease, but bury up to the fletchings. So I'm
Yep.
like, it's got to be a kill shot. Like, it's in his cavity. I don't know how deep it got, but it's in there. And I think you said, I shoot, so I kind of lost track, but he mule kicked
He
and
did
just
mule
took
kick,
off.
and just from my point of view, I couldn't tell where he hit him. Could tell he was quartered, but that mule kick, I was like, oh, I bet he made a good shot. Like that's kind of a deer reaction when they mule kick. That's kind of a good sign.
And
Um,
just his reaction, like he put his head down and he was barreling through this milo. I'm like, oh, he's toast. And so he went, I think he came to the bucks he was with and then just turned straight south. Like, I don't
yeah,
know if he thought he got poked by one of them or stabbed, but he's like, I don't want to be with these things anymore. So he
yeah, that
just
was
took off
weird.
straight south.
That was strange.
It
Those
was.
four small bucks stayed kind of going the angle they were, and he separated from them and went south.
Yeah, full 180 and just
Yep.
kicked out south. And so at that point, I'd seen the arrow start coming out, and I'm like, okay, it's back, but I think I'm far in. And he eventually stopped, and classic gut shot, curled over, stopped out there. Like I gotta get another one in him. Like he's not looking at me, so I knock another arrow, pretty quickly rush towards him, and I don't think noise was a big deal at this point because I think there's deer moving around right now, and he's not paying much attention. So I got pretty close. I got to like 60. Knocked another arrow. I actually so my first arrow, we'll talk about this, but it was a mechanical. I, you know, years ago, switched fully to fixed broadheads and they were fine. Like penetration was great, but I just wasn't getting good blood trails. And I had some people kind of convince me mechanical for Western hunting for kind of these longer shots. And Um, so I was shooting mechanicals this year. I will not be doing that anymore with the results from this one, but I keep some fixed in my broadhead just in case you need to shoot through some thick stuff. Like if you need a follow-up shot in some brush or whatever. So I put a fixed broadhead on 60 yards, shot again, and
Well, and just to be clear, like you've got them in your quiver ready on an arrow. Like you're not throwing a different broadhead on.
correct.
Like you've got
Yeah.
both arrows in your quiver, different style arrow ready to go.
Yep. And this second shot, I mean, there was Milo up to his back. Like I couldn't hardly see his body. So I knew I had to punch through some Milo, and I knew a fixed might just get more penetration. Like if it's a bad angle, it's going to do more damage probably. And that's
Right.
what it was. I mean, he was facing away from me. I couldn't do anything about it. And
Yep.
so I
And
just
and
got
any archer knows, like especially in a situation like this, gut shot, any follow up shot is a good follow up shot. Like
some
any
more blood.
any more blood, any more damage anywhere um, is better than letting a gut shot deer run off with only one arrow in him. So
Right. So follow up shot, hit him in the rump. Wasn't a great hit, but it's another arrow on him. He ran out and I think I even got a third shot on him. He was hurting at this point. He knew something was up. Like he was a lot more alert at this point. You know, he'd kind of look up every once in a while, and but I snuck in close enough and got a third shot and felt great. You know, release felt good and everything, but I think it deflected off some Milo and just completely missed him. Um, so he took off and he knew something, you know, wasn't good at this point. Like he'd seen me, I think, and so now I'm getting worried because he's moving pretty good. And he ended up doing this crazy, like giant U-turn in this Milo, basically backtracked to where we started the day out, like back to that end of the field. And so you're tracking him, I'm tracking him, we're trying to keep eyes on him. And
Yeah, I actually got pretty close to you. I don't think you knew that, but when
oh,
we got
really?
to the east end of the field, I was probably 40 yards from you. Like I was there,
Huh.
just
Yeah, I didn't know
not
that.
not knowing what I could do, but I want to get good eyes on him and try to figure out where he was hit, stuff like that. So I was trying to keep up with it without
Yeah,
also spooking the deer. But yeah, so you started going north, and he went north and turned back west. He crossed this water hole, which was weird.
that was weird.
There's water standing in the middle of this Milo field, just from they've had a little more rain this year than we're used to, and he walked right across the middle of that, like taking
Yeah.
his time, looking back, stopped out in the middle of it.
Yeah, I mean, it
And
was
that,
what, up to his knees deep?
yeah, and that's I got some video right there because I knew that it was open. I could see everything, so I quickly got my tripod and phone and binos out and got some quick video of him walking across that.
Do you think, you know, you see deer a lot when they get gut shot go to water? Do you think that was
That's
it?
kind of what I wondered, um, but his reaction after that makes me think that wasn't part of it. But
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. That was strange because he got out of the water and then just like took off,
yeah,
like
he
not
just
running, but
as
just moving
fast
at
as
a
a
good
deer could
clip.
walk. Yeah, fast as a deer
Yeah.
could walk, and you were kind of following him, and I was downwind of him, kind of parallel with him, trying to keep up with him, trying to keep the same pace as him. And he was moving pretty quick. I was getting wore out, but we
And
wanted to keep eyes on him.
yeah. And at this point, I'm like, he's gonna go to the east side or the west side of this Milo field and probably bed down in like the first area we stalked him. Like he's
Yep,
not feeling good. He's probably going to lay down in this heavy cover and just stop because around it, there's nothing.
it's
Like it would
bare
make no
around
sense
him.
for him to leave this field.
Yep, and that was my thought
But
too. Like we just got to keep eyes on him. He's going to bed, and we're going to stock up and get another shot on him. Was what was going through my head.
I'll let you kind of explain what happened next.
Yeah, so you kind of lost sight of him, I think, back where you were. He'd kind of
Yeah,
gone over this hill. I hustled and got up on top of this hill and picked him back up again. He'd kind of got out ahead of me at that point. And I just kept going straight west. Like he was probably 150 yards to my north, and we're both just going paralleling, headed west. And the whole time I'm thinking, like, he's got to stop. We're going to run out of field here. And next to that field is a giant, wide open winter wheat field that's this tall. You know, I'm like, he's not going out there. He's going to stay in his cover. And then he starts venturing to the south, kind of like going to run into me basically. And the wind was north and northeast as well. And what was going to happen was he was starting to get my wind, and I was kind of worried about it. So I start hustling to the south. At this point, we're probably 100 yards apart, and he'd see me moving. And when he'd pick his head up, I'd stop and crouch down, and he just wasn't sure what to think about it. We did that a couple times, and I was finally like, he's just going to get my wind. There's no way around it. But anyway, this deer heads to like the corner of this Milo field and takes out walking across this field, and I can't believe it. At one point, I stumbled on some blood, um, found some blood out in this Milo field, just bleeding decent, you know. But I just couldn't believe he was going to walk across this wide open field. Um, so we decided at that point we got to keep eyes on him. We couldn't hunt that field, so we head back to the truck. We parked on opposite sides of this field, so
I think I ran to my truck
yeah, I
because I knew
ran.
we were
I,
running out of daylight and he was crossing this giant area. And who knows, like once he got across this field, he could be in multiple different properties that
yep,
had heavy cover.
Yep, there's lots
So
of
I was
options.
worried.
Yeah,
Yeah, I booked it back to my truck. You went to yours.
I tried to book it. I ran probably halfway. I mean, my truck was probably 3/4 of a mile carrying a backpack. Man, I was wore
Yeah.
out. Uh, but yeah, so I got to my truck. When I got there, I called you, and you had eyes on him. You'd made it to your truck and drove down this 2-track and over a hill and picked him back up out in the middle of this field.
Yep.
So I headed down there to you, and we're like, kind of in my head, I was thinking we still had enough time to, if he could bed down on some tall grass, we could go make another shot. But that sun drops fast out there. Like just it'd be bright, sunny, and 30 minutes later, it's like, oh, it's dark.
Yep.
So I think I was a little too confident thinking we'd be able to get another shot on him. But anyway, we got there, got in the truck together, and watched him.
Yep.
I'll let you pick it up from
Watched
there.
him. Yeah, watched him till dark. So shooting lighted knocks this year. You convinced me to start doing that, and I'm glad I did because that second follow-up shot, that arrow stayed in him this whole time. Did not pop out. Um, so that lighted knock, he's got a light on his back. So we watched him till dark, and at one point it's getting dark enough, and I'm like, I can't see him anymore, but I can see the light. I can see a lighted knock moving down into this CRP.
Yep,
We're what, a mile away?
probably, yeah. At least three
And I'm
quarters
like,
of a
no
mile.
way. Like, I'm watching this lighted knock and actually saw some does. Like, he met up with some does in this cover, probably trying to find other deer and feel safe. Met up to these does, and they were just like freaked out by the whole thing. They, with the lighted knock and stuff, they didn't even want to come close to him. But he just slowed up in this draw and got real dark on us. And I kind of saw him move up this tiny little hill and lost him. So at that point, I think we're both like, all right, let's race back to the north, get eyes on the CRP from the north. Luckily, we have permission on this place. It would have been a ordeal if we didn't. We'd have to call someone and tell them the whole thing, but we had permission here. So we get to the north side of this property and glassing down in the dark um, into this draw in this CRP.
Yeah.
We're
So
both
yeah,
in different trucks.
we decided to get on like two sides of this. You kind of knew the ground, how the hills rolled and stuff on that piece, and you knew from your spot you could see a lot, and you told me where to go to where I could see a lot too.
Yep. Um, well, we had split up, right? You were in your truck, I was in mine. Um, and I actually called a local shout out to Rocky Mountain Big Game Recovery. They're a
Yep.
dog tracking service. I knew this deer was going to die. I knew there was a chance we could lose him in the night and not have great blood. So I was just being proactive. I called a dog tracker. Scott Gillespie, thank you so much. But he was super generous. He said, you know, I'll be there first thing in the morning. He also knew this deer was going to die. It was just a matter of time. So he wanted to help. And uh, so, yeah, I was on the phone with him, and I think you called me. And you called me twice, and you called
Yeah.
me 3 times. I'm like, Scott, I gotta let you go.
Then I accidentally dialed my dad, and he answers. I'm like, "Hey," and my dad's like, "What?" I'm like, "Oh, I called the wrong person."
But right when I answered the phone with you, I'm glassing, and I see a lighted knock. And I pick up, or you answer, and you're like, dude, I see him. I see a lighted knock. So we'd both seen him from two different angles.
Yeah.
So I'm
In
like, all right,
hindsight, you're like a mile away probably,
yep,
and I was at least
yep,
half mile, and man, it sure looked a lot closer to me than that. But we figured out the next day it had to have been that far.
yep.
But yeah, so
So
in that, how long had we been sitting there in the dark?
hour.
Probably, yeah. That's kind of what I guesstimate. Like we've been just sitting in the truck, lights off, just eyes on this dark field. Luckily, it was moonlit, so you could at least
Yeah,
pick out like the horizon. You knew where ground versus sky was.
yep.
Um, but it's a
But
wonder we saw that
well,
blue
so
mark.
we saw that light for what, 5, 10 seconds, and then it was gone.
Yeah, I would say 30 seconds, like under a
Yeah,
minute for sure. Like not
yep.
hardly enough time to even pinpoint where it was or get a direction on it. Like all
Which I
what
think,
what that told us was he's still in this field. and he was moving. I think we kind of both thought maybe he was bedded. It got up and rebedded.
Yep.
Maybe that's what we saw.
Because that arrow was kind of low. So when he's standing, you can see it pretty good. We were guessing when he was laying, it was, you just, no way you're
Yeah,
glassing it.
it'd have been a foot off the ground, and the grass is
Yep.
3 feet tall, so there's no way you're seeing it.
So yeah, I guess long story short, I stayed there till midnight. You stayed up with me till midnight, and we just kept eyes on this field, and we're like, he hasn't moved. We haven't seen anything come out. So we're feeling pretty good at this point that he stayed there, maybe expired, like he's down there.
Right,
So we went
he
back.
could have died right then, or he could be alive. One
Yep.
thing the dog
Which
tracker
we're
said
not.
was
Yep.
to stay out, just stay out of there, wait till morning, and that's the right thing to do on a gut shot deer anyway. Lay overnight. It was cold that night. That cold
Yep.
front had moved in, and it was in the 40s at this point, so we
Yep.
weren't concerned about the meat spoiling. Coyotes is always a concern out there because there's a lot of
Yep.
those.
So
But
yeah,
yes,
we
we made
got
it back to
couple
camp late that night,
couple
stressed
hours of
out.
sleep, you know, if you even call it sleep. But yeah, I met Scott first light, which is cool. He had he's got a cool rig with his logo all over it and dog kennels, and he had a wiener dog. I forget her name, and then what was a Bavarian mountain bloodhound or
Something like that.
mountain
Yeah,
hound.
Bavarian bloodhound or something.
Super cool male dog, and he's like, we're gonna take him first, and then she's my backup. The wiener dog's like the expert. Like if
I
we
was
don't,
like, "Are you serious? We're gonna track this deer like a mile with a wiener dog?" Like I thought it
he's
was a
just
joke at
happy.
first.
He's just happy we're out on flat ground. He's like, most of my calls are guys in the mountains, like steep deadfall. Like it sucks. I'm so glad I'm walking out here today with you guys. But yeah, we walked that fence line down into that pasture and ended up finding, we knew roughly where he crossed, but not exactly. We were a mile away when he crossed that fence. But the dog found where he had crossed and took us on a line. And I don't know how far did we go with the dog.
About half a mile.
Oh,
Um,
really? I didn't know it was that far.
yeah, it was pretty far. Just because I went back to pick up my thing that I'd left, and I had a tracker on coming back, and it was about zero point 0.6 miles. So, um,
Jeez.
but it was cool to watch that dog work with his owner. Um, like I couldn't take that dog out and track a deer. Like they had a definite relationship, and the owner knew how to read the dog, and the dog knew how to read the owner. It was really interesting, really cool to watch.
Yeah, at some point I was like, oh, we're still on blood. Like that dog's nose down, like going that way. And we're like, Scott, you still feeling good? He's like, no, he lost him. And I'm like, he looks exactly like he did 10
Yeah,
minutes ago, when we were
yeah,
really on. But yeah, Scott told us he got confused probably because of the gut shot. There's so much scent that the dog got confused and was kind of doing circles and getting confused with direction. And there was a pretty good wind that day too, which is not great for that. But he's like, I'm gonna go back and get my female now. She's gonna find him. We're like, all right. Should we look around a little bit since we're here? And he's like, yeah, it wouldn't hurt to walk a line there. Just go glass a little
and
bit.
I will say we'd come over this hill. We'd glassed a couple times out in this area, just general area, and all of a sudden a coyote is running, kind of
Oh
out
yeah,
from this low spot, and we'd been paying attention. I felt like that coyote hadn't just been running, like ran over the hill towards us and then appeared. Like it just appeared kind of out of nowhere right here in the middle where we could see. And I said, that's a good sign. I know we wouldn't want them to be eaten up by coyotes, but there's a coyote right in here that he was obviously like hanging out down there, and he heard us or saw us and took off.
they're the
So
classic tracking dog. They'll find it before anything.
right.
So
So with
yeah,
that in mind, we kind of just took off that direction. I personally thought the grass down there was going to be a lot taller. I'm like, oh, I bet there's some thick stuff down here. And we got down there and it wasn't. I'm like, man, like, he's not here. Like we're just kind of walking, looking around. I don't know. And all of a sudden, I see him laying there. 30 yards from us. I just see his left side sticking up in the grass, like kind of obvious. Like not sure how we didn't glass him up. And I remember just like hitting you on the shoulder saying, "Hey, congrats on your big deer." And you looked at me like, "What?"
I thought you were messing with me. I did not believe you.
I
And you
should
just
have
point, and I
played it a little different. I should have done something, but
should have made me go trip on it.
yeah.
But
But
yeah, I looked
I
left,
pointed,
and
and you glassed like 100 yards away.
yeah, I was looking way further. And he's 30
Yeah,
yards away, laying there.
yeah,
Couldn't believe it. I kind of lost my cool. It's been a long month and a half. I lost that bull in September with another penetration issue, which going back to I'm not shooting mechanicals anymore.
yeah.
Fixed don't fly as good, at distance, but I'm gonna find a way to make them fly good this next year. So, but yeah, I just had a long month and a half, and seeing that deer there was a good feeling that we
Yeah,
found
it
him.
was.
Wasn't touched by coyotes, like not even touched.
Mm.
Couldn't believe it.
And
So we found him,
he wasn't stiff as a board either. He hadn't died when we saw him at 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock or whatever time that was. Like he was still alive then, and probably died early hours of the morning. We
yeah.
estimated. Um,
So yeah, found him and super grateful. You know, sucks it had to go that long, and we couldn't have had him in the truck the night before. But I'm just grateful we found him, and yeah, couldn't have done without you, man. And thank you, Scott. We called Scott, said, "Hey, we found him," and I felt kind of bad because I wish his dog was so close, like 100 yards from finding him.
yeah,
And
we kind of
it,
he lost confidence a little too soon, maybe in his dog.
yeah,
I think we could have spent some more time in there. I think he would have found him, but
yeah.
uh,
But yeah, we got on him, and that was awesome, man.
yeah,
Yeah,
cool experience. So uh, just to talk a little bit about it, I like talking about score. Scored 187 and 7/8. That's just a rough score. First one I've scored all year, so it could be off, I guess. But huge deer. I think we initially called him a 200-inch deer, but we got a little excited maybe. But still a world class animal. Like they're so hard to
on the
judge.
hoof, like compared to your legit 200 4x4 last year, he looked like he was right there and had some extra points, which you were
Yep.
like, okay, he's got to be 200 then. I think
Yep.
it's body size, man. Like
Yeah.
he
Like
was a
that.
big mature deer, 5.5-year-old probably, but just didn't have the giant body that your buck did last year.
Right. So it's hard to.
So we were just a little off on that.
Yeah. But
But
either way, I
still,
think
dude,
after we looked at some video of him, we kind of guessed him more like upper 80s or 190,
yeah.
low 190s. We didn't think he'd make the two mark.
But seriously, like, who cares? Because if you're
Yeah,
shooting anything above 170, like that's an amazing mule deer.
yeah. I
Like,
don't think anybody's passing up 187-inch
no,
mule deer. Awesome
nobody.
deer.
No.
Had good brow tines. Had one
Yep,
really
that we
deep
didn't even know
fork.
were there. We didn't even know he had brows.
Yeah, they angle forward. So strange.
Yeah.
Like not seen one like that. So here I've got the score sheet pulled up. His fork on his good side was 11 and 4/8, so 12-inch fork, which helps a ton. Um,
Yeah,
had
that back
big,
fork
really
was
big bases. Those brow tines being so low helped him on his mass measurements down on the bases, which is
yeah,
cool.
like 6-inch bases.
Yeah, I had 6-inch bases, and the next measurement's like 4 and 2/8. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but that's how you do it. I mean, there's no way around it.
Yeah.
15-inch tines. His fronts were 12 and 2/8 and 11. One beam was almost 25. The other was almost 24. Like, just an excellent
Solid.
deer.
Yeah.
Yeah, just awesome deer. Like exactly what we're there to do. Like that's what we're looking for.
Well, let's talk about the color of the antler too.
Yeah, like
And
he's so dark.
for a deer where we are, we've never seen one that dark, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't.
Or completely stripped of velvet. Usually they have some velvet hanging off. He
Yep,
was clean, like
yep.
polished out.
That's the first one that we've killed that didn't have velvet on it. And
Yep.
yeah, definitely the darkest one. And not like a chocolate
No,
Canada
like a
buck,
mountain deer. Yep.
but it was like a light brown. Like all the other deer look white. Their antlers look white standing next to him. And his just blended in different. Almost had like a little reddish tint to it. Like,
Yep.
I don't know. Really cool though.
It's cool. Unique. Yeah.
Yep. Cool buck.
Beautiful deer. Yeah.
Um,
But yeah,
so
tells the
stoked.
story of
So,
Ghost.
yeah, so stoked that got to get him. And it's cool. He had trail camera pictures of him last year.
Yep.
You, not that, I don't think you stalked him, but you could have stalked him last year. You just knew that he wasn't one
So
you were going to shoot, right?
right, so I had two encounters with him last year. One was in a blind. I was sitting water late season, because they were hitting this water really good, this giant herd. So I was sitting in the water and had like 12 does and him coming into me. They were like 100 yards out, and this pheasant hunter came through, and of course stopped because he saw these deer, and they all took off running. Then he comes by, and I come out of my blind. I'm like, "Hey, dude, I'm hunting here," and he's like, "Oh, sorry, didn't see you." But spooked him that one time, and then the other time, I was stalking a bigger buck. He was with, I call Big Three, just a more mature deer. Maybe not as big, honestly, but was stalking him, and he was with him on that stalk. So I was 60 from Big Three before the wind switched, and he got my wind. So he was right there too, shooting range.
Right.
And I'm kicking myself because I did not go shed hunting there this spring where those deer were living all winter. I mean, they were in there the whole time, like never left that winter. They were on my camera every day pretty much. I know his sheds are in there,
They
and I
probably
probably need to
are,
go
yeah.
back.
See if you
Probably
can't
need to
turn
go
them
back.
up. Yeah, that'd be really
Yeah,
cool if you could.
it would.
But yeah, cool
But yeah,
buck, cool story. Like that's the what drives us to go out there every year. There's always ups and downs. We always get a little discouraged at some point, but we know that there's an opportunity like that just around the corner. We just got to find the right corner.
yep,
Um, so from that, um, yeah, that's the end of the story of Ghost. Can't wait to see him after he's mounted. Um, but anyway, uh, so that was day 6 when we found him. And just to kind of finish out the end of the trip here, you worked on skinning him out and caping him out there on day 6, and I took off to go find another deer. Um,
yep.
that morning before, I'd seen that 3-point, like a 140, just straight 3-point, pretty wide, decent body on him. Probably maybe a 4-year-old. He might have just been 3, but I'm thinking he's probably a 4-year-old. Just
I bet it's four.
looking at his body size, and kind of went to the same area I had seen him and couldn't turn him up. Uh, Looked in some other areas, nothing. Um, didn't turn anything up the rest of that day. Right. The next morning, I'm back in a similar area, and I glassed this ditch that I hadn't looked at, and sure enough, he was in there. Him and a bunch of does. So I stayed put and watched them bed. Finally, there's some real tall weeds down the bottom. This is a CRP field, so down in this draw or in this ditch, looks like a ditch from the road. There's some real tall weeds. Like I don't know if they were sunflowers or what kind of weeds they are, but they could be up to like 6 foot tall. Pretty good sized stem on them, I think. And I could see him raking those weeds like a whitetail in Missouri would rake a cedar tree or something, like making a rub. He was just tearing up these weeds, and you just see the tops of them doing this, and all of a sudden it'd fall over, and he'd move to the next one. So it was really cool to watch, but I couldn't see him at all. It's so thick in there. So that's kind of what I had to go off of, and I videoed that, and I ended up dropping a pin on Onyx. I said, I think this is where he's at. It's so hard to tell. Um, Anyway, we kind of devised a plan, got the wind right, got around on the other side of him, walked in. Normally we would do a lot of crawling, but in this scenario, we walked all the way up there to those tall weeds. We kind of got in a little low drainage and just went slow. The winds were not great, probably 5 to 10 mile an hour. Would almost seem to go completely calm every once in a while. and we'd
Yeah.
stop and just have to wait for a little bit of wind to keep our noise covered. And the whole time we're thinking, man, this wind could swirl and it could be over. But we got to be aggressive, right? This is the last full day we're there. So we get up to these tall weeds. We can't see everything I'd hoped we could. You decided you'd be more useful if you just backed off and could watch and signal to me if we needed to. So you backed up the hill.
Yeah. Just get some elevation.
Yep. Um, I decided these tall weeds, like I'd have to be completely standing up straight to shoot over them. So I start working around, and I see a
It's kind of
spot.
like a wall of weeds, and you're just
Yeah,
kind of walking the
there's a hard
edge.
hard line of 4 or 5 foot tall weeds and like short grass, and there's a hell of a deer trail on that short grass. So I was taking this deer trail around, and finally I see like an opening in these weeds, and I'm like, that'd be a good spot to get to, where the vegetation just a little lower. I'd be able to shoot, be able to see a little better from there. And I'm on my way there, and I was about, I don't know, 20 yards from that, and I think a doe, got up and spooked. I don't know if she saw me, heard me, what. She got up and was moving, and in all that commotion, I'm glassing, and there he is. Probably at that point, he's probably 50 yards from me, um, very close to where my original pin was. Like I kind of pinpointed him pretty well. Um, they're
So
up, moving.
where I was, I couldn't see him. Was he lower than you? Was he
Yeah,
standing?
he was. Yeah, he was moving
He's on his
around a little
feet.
bit. And anyway, those does got nervous, went up kind of on the hill, and started feeding and calmed back down. I didn't know where he went. Just lost sight of him. I was trying to stay hid. So I start, once I feel that the deer have all bedded back down, I start moving up a little closer. And I'm like 10 feet from getting where I want to be. And I hear this commotion right in front of me. And I see the weeds start moving, and they're headed towards me. And it end up being a fawn. And she's shorter than these weeds. So I'm just seeing the weeds moving. Like it looks like a raccoon coming at you. But so I kneel down, and she gets like within 10 feet of me. And through the weeds, she sees my silhouette, and she bounds out into these tall weeds. And I'm like, dang it, she's going to mess this up. And
It's
I'm trying,
usually does that screw things up. This
yeah,
like, and he was alone. There were no other bucks with him, which was kind of strange. He was with does this time of year, which is not normal.
right. We normally don't deal with those. We try to avoid them. But in this
Yeah,
situation, that morning, I saw there was like 8 does in there with him. And I knew that'd be a challenge, but
it is. Yeah.
we didn't have another option. But this fawn bounds out of the ways. I can't see her. And all of a sudden, I hear more walking in these weeds. These weeds are real noisy, real thick. And I'm like, kind of peeking up through the top of these weeds, and I see this buck coming like towards me. And he's in range already. Like I know that. He's close enough I can tell that. And I was trying to get a range on him without raising up too high. So I'm kind of in the open behind this wall of weeds. Um, and just things happen fast. Last thing I saw through my rangefinder was he was walking right at me. And if I had to guess, he was at 30 yards. And his rack turned straight at me, and he was coming. And I'm like, I better put my release on just in case. Like he's going to get to a range. It doesn't matter how close he is. I'll be able to get a shot off, and I just need to be ready. So I kind of hunkered down to stay covered. I'm like ready to draw my bow, thinking he's going to get to 15 yards and it's going to stop because he sees me or something, and that's going to be my chance. And I'm hearing these weeds, and kind of all of a sudden it's quiet. And 10 seconds go by, and I'm like, I haven't seen him. I don't know where he's at. I raise up a little bit, still worried about this fawn. She's probably still looking back, wondering where I'm at. And the only thing I see was out about 60 yards, one of these tall weeds were doing this again, and it stopped. And I'm like, okay, that's where he's at. Like that's the most intel I have, was he was kind of headed this direction, and he must have looped a little bit and ended up over there under those tall weeds. So I crawling and kind of crouching, make my way up, scooting up, and then I see a deer bed about 5 yards in front of me. and I make my way to that existing deer bed. And I had this perfect little cubby hole in these weeds. I had a couple of them real tall weeds next to me. The rest of the weeds are probably 4 foot tall. These other ones on both sides of me were 6 foot tall. Like I had a good hide right there. And that was all I knew to do was just wait right there. And I could range the weeds I saw moving, and they were at one was at 35, one was at 40. I'm like, I'm in a good spot. He's going to stand up. Well, 4 hours later, after sitting in this spot, it hadn't been 4 hours, I guess. A doe saw me or something, got too close, spotted me. She bound out, started blowing. The other does got up, started blowing. I never had a mule deer blow at me so many times. And the whole time I'm ready, release on my bow, thinking he's going to stand up right here at any point, and I'm going to have to get a shot off pretty quick. And he never did. And finally, I was like trying to scare the does off. Like I was like standing straight up, like, hey, I'm right here. Just leave. And uh, eventually they finally left. And I was concerned, like, why did he not stand up? Like if he was right here where I think he was, those does blowing were 10 yards from him. So I kind of got in my head, like, maybe I'm not in the right spot. But I had no other
Also, I
intel
had a
either.
good view of all the places he could have left that thick bottom, and I did not see him leave. And I heard the does blowing. I was 500 yards away, but I heard him, and I'm like, why is he not going with him? You know, they left. Why is he not going with him? He must still be with him. So I was signaling to you like he's still in there, like stay on him. How many hours were you down there?
It was 4 hours total. So 4 hours into being in the same spot. Luckily, I couldn't
Which
sit. I couldn't sit because I couldn't see if I was sitting, so I was standing most of the time.
it's one thing waiting 4 hours on a deer you can see bedded like mine.
Yeah,
It's another to not know if he's still there. And it's like,
yeah,
am I just wasting my time?
yeah. I was glassing so hard, everything. Like I knew where I thought he was. I was glassing everything else, thinking I just need some validation that this deer is still here, and I never got it. Um, After 4 hours, it's like starting to get dark. Like I'm thinking deer should be on their feet feeding any time now. And sure enough, I spot him, and he was probably 75 yards, not where I thought he was. And I was just like, dang it,
What
man.
was
Like,
he doing when you finally spotted him? Like
he was just
feeding?
feeding. Yep. He may have been up for a minute. I don't know. I spotted him. He
Hmm.
was a quarter away from me and head down feeding. I'm like, well, now's my chance. This is the last full day. I've got to get up close to him, try to sneak up and get a shot. So I just take off walking through this thick shit. Turns out it's 6 foot tall down on the bottom of this ditch, and there's like a deer highway down there and like a tunnel. And I
Jeez.
pop out where I thought he was bedded, and there was a bed right there. So I'm thinking one of those does were bedded right there and had been bumping against one of them weeds, and that's what I saw. But either way, I pop out and I'm looking for him, and I see him about the same time he sees me. He doesn't know what I am. I'm probably 60, 70 yards at this point. He had moved a little further, and I just hunkered back down, let him calm down, and he starts working back to the north. And what I figured out later was he was looking for these deer. He knew that there was a lot of other deer in there with him. There was, yeah, all these does. I think there were two smaller bucks. I remember seeing one leave. Um, but at this point, I think all the other deer have left, and he's the only one. And he acts like he doesn't know that. So he was kind of zigzagging back and forth, looking around where these deer had been bedded. And I was struggling to get a range on him without skylining myself. And finally, I got what I felt was a solid range. It was 55 yards. And I dialed my pin, and he's walking like left, walking to my right. And I didn't want to stop him and alert him. I wanted him to stop on his own. And he did stop. And where he did, there was tall weeds covering him. And then he goes back left, and I hunkered back down. And I come to full draw a couple times on him at about 55 yards. And just, I never had a shot I was comfortable with. I could only see probably 6 inches of his back in most of the spots. So I thought, well, my bow's shooting slow enough. I could drop one in, maybe hit a little bit of weeds right by him, and it'd probably be okay. But I needed him to stop, and I needed to be in a good spot, and I needed him to not be looking at me, and I just never had that opportunity. So
Yep.
he eventually starts going north, and I circle around and try to get on him again. Didn't work, and then he turned back south, and I made another big loop, and it didn't work out. I got within 65, I think was the closest I got. And last thing I saw, he was walking towards me, and I kind of hunkered down and kind of got ready, and I didn't see him again. And at dark, I watched him going up over the hill. And I'd kind of followed him up that hill thinking, well, could get lucky. I got lucky before. Crazy things have happened. So I'm like, I'm at least going to keep myself in the game here as it's getting dark. But it didn't work out. But anyway, we
You
ended up,
almost, yeah, you had some close calls with that buck. I mean, full draw, what, two, three times?
yeah,
Just you
it
you're
was
being
cool.
selective with your shots, which is a good thing to do, and it just didn't work out.
Yeah, I had the adrenaline rush. I had the shakes bad. Like,
Yeah,
it was fun.
so did I. When
It
you
was,
drew, I'm like, I got worked up,
yeah, it was fun.
but
So we ended that night, went back to camp, cut your deer. No, that was the end of day 6. We cut your deer up. I
oh
don't
yeah, yeah,
remember. I don't
yeah.
remember.
We
We
had
had
some
no.
late nights.
Yeah, I had some late nights. Had full intentions to record this podcast there together, but we just didn't have time. Like, I mean, we hunt daylight to dark. By the time you get back to camp and cook some supper, you're wore out, or then we had to cut up your deer and stuff. So, but day 8, I needed to leave that morning, and we drove around. Thought, well, if we can find a buck that we could put a quick stock on, we'll go for it. But we didn't turn anything up. We went and shot a couple prairie dogs, had a little fun for about 45 minutes, and decided to go pack up camp. That was the end of the trip. It was a good trip though. Like, sure, I brought home tag suit, but it's perfectly fine. Like, I love going out there, and we've talked about this before. When one of us kills a deer, it's like we both killed it. Like, it's not like you're off
Yep,
doing your own thing. Like, I was there for it.
it's a team
I,
effort.
yeah, I was just as happy. I'm happy you killed it. Um, like, I call that trip a success. Like, people at home like, oh, you didn't get nothing. I'm like, nope, that's okay. Like, that's part of it, and it was great. Like, it's still a good experience. So
Yeah, it was awesome.
yep,
And you still have a tag till the end of the year, just so you know.
yeah,
Don't forget.
might make another trip out there. We'll see. Can you hear all this rain right now?
I can hear that. Yeah.
I thought it was coming from you earlier, and I took my headphones off, and I'm like, oh, it's raining here. I didn't know it was going to rain. Um, one last thing I want to talk about. I want to do this segment called "The One That Got Away," and I think you could think about this however you want. It can kind of be open ended. Like, your typical story would be a big buck that got away, whatever, but it could be anything, right? But one thing I want to talk about, and since you're on here, you were kind of part of this as well. What year was that? That big buck that I'm thinking about?
Was it
20.
23?
I think it was 23.
Yep.
We're out here on the same annual trip, uh, archery hunt. We've been covering a lot of ground trying to. We struggled to find a big deer that year. We never really did find a good one. Uh, but there's some other guys hunting some of the same properties we were, and they had a side by side, and they were covering some more ground than we were just naturally. I mean, we had trucks in our feet, right? They had a side by side, kind of go different places, and they told us they found this giant deadhead, big deadhead whitetail. I was like, really? Like, yeah, you'll have to come see it. So we were busy again that year. I remember, like, we both wanted to go up there and check it out, but we couldn't. They sent us a picture of it, and we couldn't believe how big it was, right? But before I left that trip, I went and put my hands on it. I'll show the video right now, but this whitetail was humongous. And told us where we found it, and we had been like a few hundred yards
Oh,
from
yeah.
this thing.
We'd walked by it 2 days before they found it.
Yep, just a few hundred yards away from it. I mean, we were
In the wide
close.
open, too. Like, not even, if we'd walked 100 yards left in glass, we would have seen it.
Yep, for sure. And I love deadheads, right? I mean, I just love antlers in general, but this was a whitetail, which we don't see a lot of out there.
No,
I'm certain it scored over 200. I didn't put a tape on it, but it was absolutely insane. It,
14 points, 15,
I don't know, something like that. Just tons of tines,
but just
just
long tines,
long
long
beams, long
beams.
tines, wide,
Yep,
heavy, had it all,
yep,
and just makes you wonder, like where was he? Where's he been hiding? We've been out there 4 years
yep.
prior. He was a
Never seen a
giant.
deer like that.
He'd have been the giant the year before for sure.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, the one that got away, just like we were so close to getting our hands on that buck and having him hanging in the man cave to where I can look at him and talk about him and tell us that story. But cool deer. Those guys, we're buddies with them. They've got him. They're taking good care of him, I'm sure. So
yeah. They made a plaque, a little, his skull was all chewed up, so they made a little wood plaque thing to put the horns on, and it looked
yep,
good. I saw it at Brian's house, but yeah,
yep, cool buck. Um,
giant.
yeah,
He
just
also killed a really good mule deer that late season that year.
oh yeah, that's right. He did
Probably like a 180
that we had never
type.
seen.
Nope.
Yep.
Yeah, he just showed up one day. Brian sent us a picture of him on the ground, and we were both like, "What the heck? Like, where
Yeah.
was he when we were there
No
for
kidding.
8 days?"
Yeah, because that year we struggled and we
Yeah.
kind of both settled a little bit for the bucks we shot. You shot a nice whitetail, and I ended up shooting a smaller mule deer, um,
Yep.
kind of like a management class deer, if you want to call it that. But
Seriously,
um,
that buck was worn down. He was like skin
yeah,
and bones.
yeah,
Good one to shoot. And then yeah, my whitetail was. I mean, that's another story for another day, right? That
yep,
was a
yep.
crazy trip too. But
Um, but anyway, yeah, that's the kind of the recap of our uh, plains archery hunt. Said 6 year we've done it, love it, and I'll probably be back this late season to try to fill that tag. Just a couple days. Max swears he can get me on one, so
please come out for my own sake. I want to keep hunting.
yeah, right. That's one
Yeah,
thing
no,
about punching a tag is you don't get to hunt anymore.
I know. It's crazy. Too much free time. But
Yep.
yeah,
All
man,
right.
I awesome trip.
Yep.
Looking
It was
forward to
great
next year already.
for sure. Me too. Thanks for coming on here talking about it, Max, and thanks for everything, dude. I truly enjoy that trip. Ever since our first year back in college, like you got me hooked on hunting mule deer. Been hooked ever since. So awesome trip, and I can't wait for the next one, whether it be December or next year. So, all right,
Awesome.
man. Thanks
All
everybody
right.
for listening. Be sure to follow us on all the platforms. Post videos about what we're doing in the outdoors, whenever that may be. But yeah, thanks for listening, and remember, stay aligned with the outdoors. See you guys next time.